Welcome back to the stock portfolio update videos. Today I wanted to give an update as one of my biggest individual stock holdings, Google, is up over 9% today, and there's been a lot of news after they've just beat their recent case. The stock is trading at around $230 a share, but we'll go through some news today around how Alphabet adds $230 billion in value after avoiding the breakup in the Antitrust case. Giving a quick look at my portfolio, you can see that my stake portfolio is sitting at around $67,538, and then my Vanguard portfolio is sitting at around $61,248. Overall, that's just under $129,000 between the two portfolios as I get closer to that $130,000 mark. Today I wanted to speak about one of my individual holdings, and that is Google. If you've been watching this channel for a while, you'll know that I was buying into the dip when Google recently fell, as there was lots of fears around the business getting split up. As you can see, I have just under 8,000 USD in total equity, or around 34 shares, and I'm currently up around 40% or $2,200. Overall, there was a time not that long ago when I was actually in the red on this position, when I was buying in quite heavy. As you can see, my average share price is $164, but right now we'll get into why Alphabet is up so much. If we have a look, Alphabet will not have to divest its Chrome browser or Android operating systems as part of the Department of Justice's antitrust case against the company. This was seen as broadly favorable for the technology giant, which avoided the harsh remedies, and Alphabet gained $234 billion in value. And Apple, another stock that I have in my portfolio, also added value. Alphabet shares rose 9.14% on Wednesday as investors viewed the result of Google's antitrust case as broadly favorable. Wednesday's gain added $234 billion in total market cap, and for Apple it closed 3.8% higher as well, adding $130 billion. The US Department of Justice had proposed a short breakup of Google, which included divesting its Chrome browser in an antitrust case that began back in September 2023. Overall, if you've been a long-term investor in Google or even in the last recent years, there's always been this fear over its head. And if you've been buying the dip on the company recently, you've probably seen some great results in your returns. Whilst Google was found to hold a legal monopoly in its core market of internet search last year, the US District Judge ruled against the most severe consequences that were proposed by the DOJ. Google will not have to divest Chrome. The company can also still make payments to companies to preload products, but it cannot have exclusive contracts that condition payments or licensing. That means Google will still be able to pay Apple the billions of dollars it does to be the default search engine on iPhones. This is something many people often don't even realize, that when you have your iPhone and Google is installed off the jump, that is a big investment on Google's behalf. They pay lots and lots of money to Apple to have that and to get people searching on Google over its competitors. But if you have been following the stock, like I said, in the last year it has been a very rocky road. There was times when the stock was trading around $203 at the beginning of the year before it had this very steep runoff. And this is again where I was trying to buy in. The videos are all on my channel for you to see, but I was dollar cost averaging into Google when it was falling, similar to Amazon, and that really allowed me to buy in whilst others were fearful. That's one of the best times you can make money. Obviously, this isn't financial advice. There are sometimes reasons that companies fall for good reasons, but when I was looking at it and some of the other people I follow, that Google seemed to be quite underpriced. It was trading at around an 18 PE ratio if I remember correctly, and when you compared it to many of its other big tech giants, it was really undervalued. The company was still printing money, it was still in a dominant market position, but there were these fears around the business potentially getting split up. Overall, if we're looking forward now, at around $230 a share, some people are still buying Google at this price. I'm personally not investing any money right now, as I did pretty aggressively invest into Google before. I took my position from around 2,000 USD, I believe it was, to now, again, 7,821. So I did put a fair amount of money into Google. I do still have exposure to Google on some of my other positions. So if we have a look at some of my other holdings, I have VOO, which tracks the S&P 500. And again, this is still heavily weighted towards tech as the big tech companies just continue to get bigger and bigger. So I do have exposure to Google in my VOO position. Also in my Vanguard portfolio, I hold a ETF called VGS, and VGS tracks the international shares, so all across the globe, and that again does have some exposure to Google. And like the article touched on briefly, my small position in Apple, which I did sell out a lot of recently, has had a nice little bounce back. Again, it's up 15% in the last month, so a really good investment if you did buy it down when it was around $200 a share. But again, this is a really small position for me now at only $1,244. I'm up close to 50%, but yeah, I don't see myself adding to my Apple position at the moment, as it is trading at still nearly a 35 PE ratio. Going through the rest of my portfolio, you can see nothing's really changed. All the staples have stayed the same. I don't see myself changing anything in my stake portfolio anytime soon. And if we have a look at my Vanguard portfolio, you can see VGS is now over $50,000, which was a goal of mine. So that was a nice one to tick off. It's by far my biggest position now across all my portfolios. And I think that just gives me a really strong base, diversified globally, especially when I compare it to some of my other positions. You can see VLC recently had a bit of a hit. It was trading around $88 a share. It's now come all the way back down to $85.60. Again, this is a position I'm potentially going to sell out of. I've mentioned on here a couple times if I do go for a property. But it's nice having it there. It does pay me quite a strong dividend, which I just reinvest back into the portfolio. But again, yeah, it's probably not an investment I see myself being in for the long term. Overall, the stock portfolios are getting closer to $130,000, and we can have a look at the Excel spreadsheet. So if we have a look here, this kind of just breaks it up a bit, makes it a bit more visual, so you can see how my holdings are kind of weighted. If we have a look around, we can start with my American portfolio. If you see, the first one that I'll highlight here is obviously Amazon, Google, and Microsoft. So you can see Google is the one here in the green, I believe, and that's sitting around 18%. So it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger, especially as these recent rises. This used to be a 3% or 4-5% position, and now it's just continued to build as the stock has performed well, similar to Amazon. And if we have a look at my Australian portfolio, it's sitting around 82% in my global tracking ETF and VGS, and only 18% in VLC. These balances, I update them at the end of every month. So obviously I updated those around 3-4 days ago. And you can see my stake portfolio has been up and to the right for years now, as I've continued to dollar cost average. I don't invest as much into my stake portfolio as what I did at the start. A lot of my investing now goes to my Vanguard account, just to do with the exchange rates. It is quite hard at the moment with how the Australian dollar is against the USD. So yeah, I've been pumping money into my Vanguard account, but you can see both portfolios have been kind of up and to the right. And that's been quite good for me, as I've been able to build these portfolios over time. Like even if we look back at January, my combined value between the two portfolios positions was just under 100,000. But now if you look at it in August, it's sitting at around 128,000. So it's been a good year so far. Again, hopefully we can keep the momentum going up to end the year. And I'd really like to be able to get to around 135,000 by the end of the year. I will have things like a bonus coming in, and it's just my regular pay as well. So I think I will be able to get there, hopefully. But yeah, that's kind of just how the portfolios are sitting. If we also have a look at my dividends, last month was extremely quiet for me. August typically is. I only got $2.64 in dividends in my stake portfolio after taxes, and nothing in my Vanguard portfolio, as that does pay quarterly. So my goal for this year was to get around $2,000 in dividends. I said that a lot at the start of the year, and I think I am well on track. If we have a look here, you can see I've got around 137 USD from my stake portfolio. Obviously, we will still get another quarterly repayment, so that should bump up to hopefully around 180, 200, who knows, around that kind of range. And then my Vanguard portfolio, I will get another payment from that. So hopefully that bumps up to around 1,800 or so. So that will comfortably put me over $2,000 mark. But yeah, back to the portfolios. I just wanted to do a quick mid-week video on Google, as that is a stock I've been quite bullish on. I've done a lot of videos on. I took a bit of a gamble on it, and it's quite paid off for me. So